Hey there, Nicole Prigge-Taylor of Coldwell Banker Central here to talk to you about the Ellensburg housing market in 2022, March 2022, to be kind of James Bond about it. So home prices, right? This is still the thing that is on the forefront of everybody's mind. If we're looking at home prices, let's talk about the where, what, and the when. City of Ellensburg, residential and manufactured homes only, the month of March. The median sold price was $512,889 with a range of $148K all the way up to $1.1 million. Whoa. With 26 homes sold. Those 26 homes sold impact this next metric, which is the sold price increase from 2021. The homes that sold in March of 2021 sold, however you want to look at it, for 22.1% less than in March of 2022, or if you want to look at it as the homes that sold in March of 2022 sold for 22.1% more than the same month but previous year. That is called appreciation. That is the big buzzword that everybody in real estate keeps talking about, is what a property is valued at and why it's valued at more than it was a year ago and why it's a good time to sell. Now the thing is, that also makes it a good time to buy. Something that isn't being covered is, yes, it's a seller's market, but it's also a buyer's market if you think about the fact that the buyers that bought a home a year ago are already sitting, closed in the month of March 2021, at a time when people were still saying, oh, housing prices so inflated. They're also sitting on 22.1% appreciation from exactly where they were a year ago. And I would bet you that they didn't put 22% of the home's value into home repairs and improvements. More than likely, the odds of that are so small. So while it's a seller's market, it's a good time to sell, especially if you've been in the home long enough to be in a great position equity-wise. It's still a good time to buy because the principles of supply and demand kind of state and enforce that since there is still a demand for those properties, your home is going to continue appreciating. And just by getting locked in at this given rate, at this given payment, with minor fluctuations for taxes and insurance, you are guaranteeing that a year, 2, 5, 10 years down the line, you're going to have amassed not only the equity from what you have put into the home in payments, but also the appreciation that has amassed over that time. Just like in the stock market, time is the biggest indicator of how much wealth you were going to be able to accrue. So let's peel back the layers of the onion and talk a little bit about new listings. I feel like one of the most common things that I'm hearing is that there are no houses on the market. And yes, but kindly no. These metrics here show that there are just as many homes on the market, new listings, year to date, January through March, 2022, 2021, 2019. 2020 was an outlier. Admittedly, there was a lot more inventory available that year. But the homes are there. We actually have a few more that have been on the market this year alone than the prior year. The issue is that our cumulative days on market, the number of days from when that home posts to when that home is marked pending and is under contract with an ecstatic buyer, is so much smaller. Which brings me to pending sales. So pending sales, we're seeing about a 30-ish% increase if we look at 2019 and 2020 as kind of a chunk, and then 2021 and 2022, because there was a big difference that happened in March of 2020. And that is when we went into lockdown, and that is when the housing market changed forever, or started to change forever, and had the makings of what was going to come. So closed sales, also peeling back the layers here, closed sales are indicative of what was happening anywhere from 14 to 45 days ago. If it's a cash offer, it's likely it can close in 10 to 14 days, just depending on the stipulations and the contingencies within it and what needs to be satisfied. If it's a conventional, if it's an FHA, a VA, you're probably looking closer to 35 to 45 days just because of appraisal turn times. So think about that when we look at what has sold in the month of March. Cool thing here, year-to-date sold, 2022, there's a great deal more that has sold year-to-date, an indicator of, one, the 73 listings that we've had January, February, March. And then 2, some of the inventory that had been on the market and maybe hung out a little bit has also been absorbed. This is the big one. Everyone is probably thinking about if you missed the boat on a refi, if you've been thinking about a buy-sell situation, well, sell-buy, or if you've just been thinking about buying. It's interest rates, it's mortgage rates. They have gone up considerably in the last month alone, and then if we compare to last year, that's a lot. So the final Thursday of the month of March in 2021, interest rates were at 3.17 according to Freddie Mac. That same final Thursday of March in 2022, interest rates were at 4.67%. Now, I guess here is, I don't even want to say good news or bad news. Let's just call it neutral news. This is just going to impact the price point that you are shopping in or the amount that you are willing to pay. And I think that's the big one is most people, it's not about how much you're going to pay over the lifetime of the loan. It's about what am I responsible every single month, that money, what's that amount that I'm responsible for? And that's your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. For the sake of this, since I didn't have a specific property to use and that dictates the taxes and the insurance, let's just talk monthly principal and interest. If you had a $400,000 mortgage in 2021, your principal and interest payment would have been $1,723 using that interest rate of 3.17. If we're looking in 2022, that same amount of mortgage would come to $2,067. That's a $344 increase. So I think one of 3 things is either going to happen here. If that buyer is still in the market and they are still looking, they are either going to have to just accept that their payments are going to be higher. They're going to have to lower the price point that they are shopping in. In this instance, that would reduce them down to about $335 to maintain that same monthly principal and interest payment that they were looking at in 2021. Or it's option 3. I think the more common one is it's going to have to be a little give and take. Likely going to shop in a little bit lower price point and likely going to accept a little bit higher payment. Because the other factor here, especially if you're a first-time buyer coming from rentals, the interest rate on a rental is 100%. You get none of that money back ever. Ever, ever, versus in a home, minus taxes and insurance, which can change just a little bit annually, you're locked in at that 30-year rate, right? You know what your payments are going to be. If you're out in the rental market appreciation right now is insane, seeing some of the prices that are out there. So if you have the ability to get in to a starter home, and maybe it's going to be a little smaller than you wanted. Maybe it doesn't have a garage. Maybe it doesn't have the yard of your dreams. That's okay. It is a stepping stone, but more on that later. I might have jumped the gun. So FAQ number 1, frequently asked questions that I'm getting right now. Are home prices going to fall? Is it wishful thinking? Is it based on fact? The data doesn't support home prices falling, largely because the amount of supply and demand. Whether it's wrong or right now, our supply levels do not meet the demand levels of buyers, and that is going to hold up those home prices, right? While the data does not support that home prices are just going to fall, the data does support appreciation slowing. So instead of this 19 to 22, 23% appreciation from one year to the next, it may be closer to the 5 to 10% range. So what does that mean for you? Honestly, homeownership is still your best wealth building move and a wonderful hedge against inflation. Which kind of brings me to FAQ number 2. Should I buy or should I wait? The best time to do anything is when you're actually prepared to. Whether we're talking about renting your first home, marriage, or buying a home. The best time to do any of those things is when you are of sound mind, sound finances, and you feel comfortable and confident and competent in everything that you're doing. So some questions that I would ask people is homeownership a dream or a goal? So a dream is something that you throw out there and you're like, I would really love to record some music, right? It's a dream, but I am physically not doing a single thing to take that to the next step, to make it happen. So it's a dream. It has no action plan. Is it a goal? If I want that, am I making appointments? Am I saving up money to do this? Am I figuring out who I want to utilize to do my audio engineering, sound mix, record, like all of that? If I am taking and making actionable small steps and mediums and larges to get to that space, it can be a dream and a goal, but you've actually made it into a goal. The same goes for buying a home. Are you doing actionable things that are going to position you and push your needle forward, on the speedometer of how the heck do I get there? Are you doing those things? Are you ready to view it as a stepping stone? This is for first-time buyers and even for sell, buy up buyers. This still might not be your dream home. It's possible that your savings are not going to outpace appreciation. If you're not able to save greater than 10 to 20% of where appreciation is going, you're just tracking with the market, right? So you might as well get in a little bit lower than you wanted to and utilize that appreciation, make a sale, and then move on to the next. Are you about to experience a major positive change? So this is the only spot where I have encouraged buyers to maybe slow their roll. Let's use an example. I had a gentleman I was working with, and we worked together for almost 9 months. He had a series of different pay raises that were happening over the course of the time we worked together, the second of which ended up being sizable. And so with that increased pay raise, one, he felt way more comfortable with a higher loan value. Two, it opened up some buying possibilities to him as far as what was on the market. There were just more homes in that price point. And three, because of that increased earnings, he felt more comfortable with the payment that was associated with the home that he ended up going with than even the smaller, really small, like 2-bed, 1-bath home that had been looking at months prior. So it ended up being a good thing. Is there some sort of positive fiscal change that's going to happen? Is someone about to leave you some money? Is there a trust that you're going to have liquid access to? Are you about to get a crazy bougie pay raise? Those are some of the reasons why I would suggest waiting. Or a partner or spouse. Are they about to experience any of those things as well and bring that to your collective table? If not, it might be time to have a come to Jesus moment with yourself and get real about, am I shopping within a budget, one, that fits me? And if that budget fits you, well, if I'm not seeing the homes of my dream in that budget, guess what? It's time to kind of scale back that dream and make it a realistic one that you can actually achieve. Just food for thought there. Frequently asked question number 3. Is it still a good market to sell in? Yes. As long as it's a good time for you to sell, it's a good time for you to sell. Wait, what? Well, I realize that's a redundant and repetitive sentence, but as long as you are both emotionally and financially prepared to do what it takes, as long as you're in a situation where you are ready to take on moving, because moving's stressful, right? Packing everything up, moving it somewhere else, stressful. Some of the benefits of that is that you can cash in on appreciation and equity within your home. And for you, maybe that's to move to a location that fits your family's needs better. Maybe you don't want to be here anymore, and that's okay. There's been a lot of people that have, bought and moved to Montana, Idaho, Texas. The dream was to have a homestead, and here they can't do that, but there they can. That's great. Do your thing. Maybe it's to explore work opportunities that didn't exist prior to 2022. The 2020, work from home movement has completely shifted things. If you can work from home and work in a place that is closer to family, is more affordable, has that homestead you've been looking for, go do your thing. Maybe it's a good time to sell because you are downsizing and you're about to enjoy debt-free living. If you're in a big, giant home and you have an empty nest and you're sitting on all of that appreciation and equity, maybe it is time to move to a location that fits your current family's needs better. And maybe downsizing is the key because you can pay off the lien on that home and maybe you can buy outright or at a much, much, much lower payment level at a much shorter term. If you are upsizing and you have the opportunity to sell, cash in on that appreciation and upsize a little bit, and maybe it's just enjoying not being completely on top of each other. I get that. I think my family is starting to get to the point where the 12. So as far as upsizing goes, I mean, you can enjoy being not on top of each other. You can take that appreciation and equity and sink it into a purchase that actually fits your family a little bit better while likely still respecting the budget that feels comfortable for you. I get that. Our family, I mean, between dogs and kiddo and us and hobbies and things and an office at home, eventually like the space does start to feel a little bit smaller. And as we contemplate, we would love to welcome another kiddo into our world at some point, all of a sudden the walls like start to close in, right? So if that's on the table for you, it's still a good time to sell. So in summary, what a wild time to just exist, right? But I think the big thing that I like people to hold on to is that if your dream and your goal is to purchase a home, I so far have not had a client that has gone, you know what I really regret doing? Getting a home that was mine. Getting a place where no one's going to scold me for putting, maybe a partner, but no one is going to scold me for hanging up a picture. No one is going to scold me for putting wallpaper up because I just really wanted that room to have that vibe. There's some peace of mind in that. In a world that continues to move faster, you control the speed with which things move within your four walls, right? Why not own those four walls? I hope everyone's having a good April. I, for one, can say I am ready for it to be real spring, and I hope that you are too. And let's just see where this goes.